Lights, camera, action. Just kidding. No, I'm not gonna do this video with that obnoxious light in my face. Um, yeah, guys. So thanks for choosing to watch this video. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Levi, and I am currently an accountant in industry. I do revenue accounting for a publicly traded company. I love what I do, and I just wanted, to share my experiences uh, in this field. Um, so maybe those who are pursuing a career in accounting, they, might be able to learn from things that I've done, uh, or those who are thinking about pursuing a career in accounting. This might be for you. Uh, in this video, I'm just gonna casually talk about why I chose accounting. Like the cost breakdown, uh, education wise, and then next I wanted to talk about, the different pathways you could go down in accounting. Uh, Accounting has a stigma, but I think if you choose accounting, you won't regret it. Uh, Mainly because all the different opportunities that you could do once you have your degree in accounting. And so I ended up going the public accounting route at a big four firm. I chose audit and assurance, which is one of the service lines at this professional services firm. Um, and so usually with my intros, I just like to go through my LinkedIn, just so you guys get an idea of my background and my career and like where I'm at. So if we just go to LinkedIn here, um, yeah, as you guys can see, I went to Boise State for my bachelor's in accounting. When I was there, I was in the honors college. I was involved in Beta Alpha Psi, which is the accounting organization. Highly recommend you join that if you're pursuing a bachelor's degree in accounting, um, or if you just want to learn more about it. Going to those meetings, might give you insight into uh, what it's like in accounting. And then I went to USC for my master's of accounting, mainly to meet the 150 credit requirement to eventually get my CPA license, which was an end goal of mine all along. Uh, I ended up putting that on the back burner, for a couple years after I got out of college, and now I'm diving back into it now. But uh, to that end, I started my career at Deloitte in Big Four audit. Um, Spent 2 years there, learned a lot in a short amount of time, worked long hours, but I gained a lot of valuable experience and, was able to build up my resume to eventually, make a leap to corporate accounting. I left Deloitte and I joined this company called FTI Consulting. And here I'm just a senior revenue accountant. I specialize in revenue, making sure that revenue is accurate on our financial statements. Um, and this is a publicly traded company, and we have to file our financial statements with the SEC quarterly and uh, annually. And so this is more so an operational accounting role. And I love what I do. I specialize in US GAAP compliance and ASC 606 revenue recognition. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about myself, my background. And so let's go back to the agenda. And, you know, this is typical accountant fashion in Google Sheets. I just like to, keep it basic. Don't like to overcomplicate things. So, uh, yeah, so let's dive into it. So, why I chose accounting, first and foremost, the stability. It's a very stable field. There's the demand for accountants is higher than ever before. I read recently that 75% of CPAs will be retiring in the next 10 to 15 years. And so, with that comes stability, high demand for the skill set. There's a lot of companies hiring. I mean, I could just simply show you guys on LinkedIn the job opportunities in this field right now. Um, let's see. So if you're on LinkedIn and you want to, just type in accountant in the Washington, D.C. metro area, which is where I'm located, like, look at all those guys. There are so many jobs with large companies, Amazon Web Services here, in Arlington. I live a couple blocks away from the headquarters. You know, the jobs are plentiful in this field. Alarm.com, it's a growing public company in this area. I actually had some interviews lined up for this role, but I ended up going with the company that I'm at currently. Uh, all kinds of opportunities. We have not for profit accounting, the Smithsonian, again, Amazon, and then we have the Washington Post. We have Hilton. Hilton is headquartered in McLean, which is about 20 minutes from the DC proper. Oh, we have Nando's. Wow. I'm curious about this one. I love their food. We have one right next to where we live. We're always going. Sometimes they'll post, salary ranges on these job postings. But guys, I'm telling you, yeah, look, 77 to 100 grand. It's pretty good. There's so many jobs, guys. Look, I mean, the list just goes on and on. And if you live in, near like a big city, I mean, obviously there's probably going to be more jobs, but overall, anywhere you're at, you're gonna see a lot of jobs in accounting right now. It's just the way the industry is right now. Companies are fighting hard for quality talent. Um, even if you're in like outside of a city, like mid-sized city, like there's still going to be a lot of jobs. Accounting will meet you where you are. There's tons of remote jobs, like remote, hybrid. There's all kinds of different arrangements you could uh, aim for. Some of them are on site. A lot of them are hybrid. My situation is hybrid. I go in once a month. It's primarily remote, but there's all kinds of jobs, guys. If you're just looking for stability, looking for a decent paying job, it's flexible. I think right now is like the best time to get into accounting, even in the age of AI. You know, even in the age of AI, I think accounting is still the move. I'm pretty bullish on this field because I'm seeing firsthand, how AI is, integrating into this profession. I think those who know how to deal with AI will be successful. Those who don't, evolve with technology, they'll get left behind. But those who like know how to deal with AI, know how to, leverage AI will ultimately be successful. Um, and that AI and accounting, that could be a whole video in of itself. I could go on and on about AI. We have AI, revenue automation processes at my company. Um, but yeah, that could be a whole separate video if you're interested in AI and accounting. Definitely drop a comment, and I could definitely brainstorm a video for that. But anyways, for the sake of staying on track, um, why I chose accounting, yeah. So stability, good pay. The pay is good, and we could dive into specific numbers in a little bit. I enjoy working with numbers. If you enjoy working with numbers, this is a good field to get into. You're not doing crazy math. You're doing basic algebra, using Excel. I'm in Excel quite a bit. You'll quickly learn Excel once you're in the workforce. I know in college they, try to get you to take these little Excel classes, but at the end of the day, if you don't use it, you lose it. So once you're in the workforce in it every day, you just naturally pick up little tips and tricks and you get good with it. Um, I'm mainly using X lookups. I think X lookup is better than V lookup. Um, I know some people use index match, but I use X lookup. It's what I use every day. You get really good with pivot tables, and I would say honestly, XLOOKUP and pivot tables, those are what I primarily use in my day-to-day job. And it gets the job done. You could use some ifs, if statements, basic accounting formulas. Uh, Knowing those will, get you where you need to go. And it's really not that difficult. Like people overcomplicate things with Excel, but if you know those, basic formulas, and I'll just type those out for you guys. Um, some if, some ifs, if you have multiple, conditions, if statements, XLOOKUP is my preference. Some people, prefer VLOOKUP, and then, pivot tables, and I'm trying to think of anything else. Conditional formatting is good to know. But, this is, guys, I'm telling you, even in audit, and then even in the role I'm in right now as a senior revenue accountant, these are the, formulas and, things I use in Excel. It's really not that difficult, I promise you. So yeah, I enjoy working with numbers. I felt like accounting was just a good fit for me in the way I think. It's practical. You come out with a technical skill set, which was another reason why I wanted to pursue accounting as opposed to, general business or any other, business major. I did consider finance or, economics, which those are great majors, but, accounting, you'll come out with a technical skill set, debits and credits, financial statements, the language they call it the language of business. It's like its own language, accounting. And so that's why I think it is the most valuable business degree. You could do research and look up like, successful people who studied accounting. There's tons of successful people. I'm just curious, if we look that up. Let's see what Google says. Yeah, look, the founder of Nike, Phil Knight, he studied accounting. He had an accounting background. I didn't know this one. John Grisham, I guess he studied accounting, and he's like, a very successful author. Mike Jagger, J.P. Morgan. Okay, that goes way back. The founder of J.P. Morgan Chase. Um, yeah, anyways, there's tons of successful people. If you want to be a CFO, even CEOs, C-suite executives, a lot of them come from accounting backgrounds because it's the language of business. And you just understand how a business works. You're just very well versed with the numbers and the behind the scenes of a business. So that's why I chose accounting. The stability, the good pay. I like working with numbers, and I like that I have a technical skill set that is employable right away. And yeah, so a cost breakdown. If you guys are wondering, like how much does it cost to do accounting? If you want to get your CPA, how much does that cost? Which I'm on track to spend $1,500 for my CPA license between exams, the state board application, and like an ethics exam, review course, and exam. It's probably actually closer to $2,000 when you factor in some of the supplemental material I bought. And then if you factor in actually the The Becker review course, that's another 2 to 3 grand. But my employer subsidized that, luckily. So all I had to do was pay taxes on it. So very fortunate that they were able to finance that for me. But yeah, I'll do like a whole separate video on, like what it costs to obtain your CPA license. It could vary by individual depending on which review course you go with. If you buy, supplemental courses, things like that. If you have to, retake an exam, it costs more, etc. So cost breakdown, I'm really just gonna dive into like how much I paid for my bachelor's, how much it cost me, master's, and then yeah. So let's dive into that. So what did it cost me to become an accountant or CPA eligible? Meaning when you become CPA eligible, you have to meet like these certain requirements, and it varies by state to one, sit for the CPA exam, and then two, uh, there's requirements to actually get your license, which those two could be slightly different. And that could be a whole nother video if you guys are interested. I could, do a quick rundown on that. But, from a cost standpoint for, university, I spent until it cost me, like 91,000 between a 4-year degree and a master's degree. So, this 91K, this is probably more than what I had to spend really at the end of the day. So for Boise State, I was paying, out of state tuition with a scholarship. I was from California, born and raised there, and I ended up going to school out of state, and I ended up getting a pretty good scholarship that, reduced my tuition rate from I think 20 grand to 12 grand. So that was incredibly helpful. And my 4th year, I ended up getting quite a bit of scholarships that I think even brought the cost down to like 6 grand my 4th year. So really this looks like closer to 40 grand for tuition alone after additional scholarships. And so that's how much it costs, 48 grand, just tuition alone, not even living costs. I didn't factor in the living costs because, these are costs that you'd be incurring regardless of like where you go, what degree you end up pursuing. So I just kind of left that out of the equation. Obviously, if you live with your parents or something like that, then, you'd be saving a lot of money on the back end. But I lived on campus. Because I was out of state, I had to, find out ways to pay for living expenses. But yeah, 48 grand for that. Honestly, there's much cheaper ways to do this. So if you, for instance, live in California and go to a Cal State, which I highly recommend if you're just doing accounting, Cal States have good accounting programs. UC's, I mean, from what I've seen, they're good, but some of them don't even have like an actual accounting program. It's like economics, and then you could take some accounting classes, but okay. So yeah, if you were to go to like Cal State Fullerton, which was right around the corner from where I grew up, I would have paid like 7,400 per year. If we just do the math here. Sorry, I don't use Google Sheets a lot. I'm much quicker in Excel. Yeah, so if you went to like Cal State Fullerton and did their accounting program, which is really good, by the way. I actually applied to the master's program there, got in, but I ended up going to USC, obviously. But honestly, if you're looking for like the best bang for your buck with an accounting degree, I highly recommend just staying in state, going to a state school, most, state schools have a good accounting program, and they still have Beta Alpha Psi. A lot of the firms still go to these Cal State schools. Um, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter where you go with accounting, so long as you have, the CPA. You could still have a successful career without the CPA, and I'll touch a little bit more on that because currently I don't have my CPA, and I'm doing just fine. As you can see here, I've done just fine without the CPA. And I can make a whole other video on like why I chose to start taking the CPA exams. But for the sake of this video, I just will not touch on that in depth. But yeah, I mean, for a 4-year degree in accounting, if you're doing it, the frugal way, staying at home, living with your parents, going to in-state school, this is kind of what it's looking like. 30 grand for a bachelor's. Not bad. Really good. A lot of people are, complaining about college being too expensive, but if you stay in state and live at home, like you could definitely obtain like a degree affordably. And even if you finance this, like 30 grand over 10 years, like that is nothing, to come out with a bachelor's degree in accounting. Obviously, you'd want your scholarships, to reduce this, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. You could finance it. The ROI in accounting or, return on investment in accounting is great. Maybe not so much like your first couple years, but as you progress in your career, mid-career, late career, it's going to pay dividends and you'll be happy that you chose accounting. I know for a fact, like even right now in my career, I'm definitely glad I chose accounting. And so I'm just making this video really to show you what it costs and, to encourage people to consider this path. I know there's a stigma on accounting and everybody thinks accounts are going away because of AI, but I don't think that's the case. And like I said, I'll make another video on AI and accounting. But if you're thinking about accounting right now, I'm incredibly bullish on accounting because I'm seeing, the field evolve in real time. And I'm happy to share with you guys, what I'm seeing out here. But yeah, so that's what it cost me for, a bachelor's. And then when it comes to, like a graduate degree, back when I was doing this was in 2022. At the time, the requirement was 150 credit hours, to become a CPA. So I was like, okay, I need to get my master's in order to meet that requirement. I could have gone to, a state school like Cal State Fullerton and paid maybe like 20 grand for my master's. I could have stayed at Boise State, got it for free, so long as I did, a teaching assistant job. But I turned that down and I decided, to take a risk, maybe pay a little bit more and go to USC. And I can make a whole other video on that too. I won't dive too deep into that. But if you guys are curious why I turned down a free master's degree and literally paying all this money for USC, I will be more than glad to make a video. But I went to USC, financed this myself. I'm still paying it off today. I hope to be, pay off my student loans by the end of this year. I'm aggressively paying it down right now. But yeah, so this is how much it cost me to get my master's and bachelor's, 91K tuition alone, ballpark estimate. And so it's not terrible. Like I said, I know I'll be making all this back, mid-career, late career, maybe not right this moment. I'm 27 years old. So you just got to give it a little bit more time, to see the dividends. So with that being said, the next thing on the agenda was my career, like how I started my career and, the Big Four audit salary progression. And, just a disclaimer, this will vary by location, but I'm in the Washington, D.C. metro area. It's a high cost of living area. and it's very expensive where I live. So, you might see these salaries, but from my perspective, I live comfortably, but it's not like insane because the cost of living is so high here. And with that being said, we'll dive into the audit salary progression. So, how much did I earn by going the public accounting route my first couple of years? If you're curious, I have like a salary band for each level as I advanced at the firm. I was there for 2 years, and so as an audit assistant, my first year, this was the pay range. Um, and I know they even add like a CPA bonus if you pass the CPA within your first year. I think they even add, a $5,000 bonus. So that's a nice little bonus if you are motivated to take the exam within your first year at the firm. I know I was not motivated. I was tired from college. I went 100% in college, and I was just burnt out. And then, yeah. So if you decide to do the CPA, you'll get that little bonus. That's great. So that was my first year in 2022. I think even today it's gone up quite a bit. Maybe you might be coming in around at 80 grand today, if not a little more, depending on your location. But in 2023, when I got promoted to audit senior assistant, this is a salary range $75,000 to $80,000 per year in the DC area. Again, it doesn't really feel like a lot when, after taxes and if you have student loans, a car payment, things like that, it doesn't feel like a lot. And you're working long hours. And depending on the clients you're on, you could be working busy season, 6 months out of the year, if not more. I know when I reached this level, I was in busy season from January to May, and that's ultimately what led to my departure from the firm. I was just too tired working long hours, but I'm grateful for the experience it provided me, and it allowed me to build my resume. And so I'm incredibly grateful for that. But I ended up making the jump once I got promoted to senior one. This is a salary band, 84 to 90K. I think was 90K was like the high end if a high performer. That's what you're getting your first year as an audit senior. Um, and yeah, so I left once I got promoted. I took the promotion and I, jumped to industry. And when I jumped to industry, my increase in pay from this was 25%. Okay, I'll let you guys do the math, but the company that I went to definitely pays a little bit above the market. Um, definitely jumped on it, and I didn't turn back. And I love my company. I love my coworkers. I love the work I do, and I probably won't be going anywhere for a while. Um, so that pretty much sums up the salary progression if you go public accounting, audit and assurance route at a big four firm. And if you adjust for inflation since 2022, I mean, you could do the math, but this is kind of what I was making at the time. Um, I think it's worth it to go the audit route. You're exposed to a lot, um, and you learn a lot really quickly, and it sets you up, to pivot into different areas. Um, and I could create a whole nother video on different pathways. And there like accounting is so like open ended. There's so much in accounting, so many different pathways could go, so many different industries, so many different types of jobs in accounting you could pursue. But that could be a whole other video. I just wanted to show you guys, why I choose accounting, why I chose accounting. Um, cost breakdown for how much it costs to go to college for this career, and then salary progression as you start out in this field. And I will say it's not amazing compared to other, you know, professions, but like I said, where you start to see the pay increases mid-career, even maybe like 4 or 5 years in, you'll start to see this rapidly increase. Um, and a lot of the higher pay will come later in your career. And I totally think going into accounting right now in 2026 is a good investment in your future. If I had a kid, I would tell him, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, do accounting. Like, it's not the most exciting career, but you'll have a stable job. You'll have a good pay. If you enjoy working with numbers, it's a good career. You don't have to be, a mathematician. I personally am not amazing at math. Uh, I use Excel, a calculator. It's basic algebra. Most people could do it. And you come out with a skill set, that makes you employable right away. And so I'm bullish on accounting, even with AI. I think accounting is still a great field. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Just wanted, an informal little video on, accounting, all things accounting. If you guys are interested in potentially me expanding on certain topics, drop a comment. I'll be making these videos regardless of whether people ask for more content. I'm just personally trying to, get more comfortable talking to an audience about what I do, about accounting. And if you guys don't know, I did start my own business recently. I started a bookkeeping business. Really excited about it. I'll show you guys the website. Um, this is I'm going to be offering online bookkeeping services, specializing in QuickBooks Online. Um, really excited about this new little business, side hustle, do it on the weekends. But really excited about this. Check it out. Um, and yeah, with that being said, thanks for watching, guys. Um, like, comment, subscribe, drop a comment if you want to see me expand on anything that we talked about in this video. I have a lot of good experience to share with you guys. If you guys are interested in accounting, this will be beneficial for you to listen into my experience. And so, yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate it.